I'm Alison Levy of the Robust Opposition and Connect the Dots on Progressive Radio Network. And we're here today at the People's Summit in Chicago, a reunion, a revival, and a revisioning session for all of the people who were prime supporters, the organizations, the outfits, and the interest groups that were really rose and gathered together and continue to gather behind the leadership of Bernie Sanders and all his allies and the many movements that are joining. So we've been here over several days talking about all of the crucial factors of winning the power back for the people through planning and organization. So I'm talking today with David Sirota, the reporter for International Business Times, who earlier today was on this terrific media panel and really was kind of laying it down, because one of the reasons that we are dealing with the problems that we're dealing with is because of media influence, corporate media influence, and the way it affects the understanding of the greater part of the population. So the progressive media and the independent media is really doing yeoman's work. We all need to become involved, we all can become involved, and David's going to kind of orient us to why that's necessary and what we can do.
So I talked on the panel today about how the current media situation is one in which the major issues of the day aren't covered in much depth at all, and about how the way stories are framed, the way stories are chosen, are often chosen and framed in ways that are designed not to really challenge or scrutinize power, not really designed to challenge or scrutinize money. And that as a journalist, and I'm an investigative journalist, I'm not a political operative or activist, I'm an investigative reporter. And my job is to scrutinize power, whether power wants to be scrutinized or not. And I think that really isn't part of the media ecosystem as much as it should be, that we live in today. And that I do think, though, that there is more opportunity than ever for that kind of media to exist, because the cost of distribution, the cost of actually getting information out there, is lower than it has ever been. The internet has made distributing information as cheap as it's ever been. So the bar to entry is as low as it has ever been, and so that provides an opportunity. There are also grassroots funding opportunities out there, low-dollar grassroots funding. I mean, I do a podcast, for instance, and we have some subscribers, which makes being able to do real journalism in that forum more and more possible. So I actually think that there is something good that's happening right now. There are real opportunities that are happening right now, and I think the awakening about the deficiencies of the existing legacy media organizations, that provides a window of opportunity to actually build something completely different.
That sounds great. I mean, as you go out and about, what proportion of the populace is still sort of hypnotized by what you're calling the legacy media versus kind of, we're done with that and, we're kind of moving over here? And are there specific segments of the population that are more loyal to the traditional media versus ready to go with?
Sure. I think there's an age factor. Mm-hmm. I think that people who grew up in the era where, you have, I like to think of it this way, and it doesn't break down exactly like this, but mm-hmm. people who are perhaps one generation older than me, and I'm in my early 40s, mm-hmm. those are people who grew up in a time when the primary delivery of news was from 3 television stations and maybe their local hometown paper and then the Washington Post and the New York Times, a very relatively small number of news outlets. Then you have my generation, which on top of that also had cable news. Then the generation younger than me grew up when they had all of those things, and then this huge internet ecosystem of social media and the like. And so I think that the power of legacy media reaches into all of those sectors, but is certainly most powerful as you go up the age ladder. I don't think you're ever going to have a media ecosystem that doesn't have legacy media. And I don't necessarily think you want a media ecosystem that doesn't have legacy media. I mean, those outlets also, they do good work. But if that's the only choice you have, that's where the problem comes in. And so I think as social media, as the internet matures, and business models, I think, develop around that, media business models, I think you're going to see in the next few decades a much more diversified media ecosystem. Now, that makes it harder for individual stories to land because there are so many channels, you lose the signal and the noise. But I also think that in that huge flood of media, you are starting to see a more value put on quality, that the consumer themselves wants quality, that media businesses understand that quality is as important as quantity, or are starting to understand. And I think that offers up the best of both worlds, where access to the entry into the media ecosystem is low, but to succeed, you're going to need to produce quality. And I think that is actually, if we can get to that place, I think that's a real opportunity to change the entire media paradigm.
And is your podcast a part of that? Would you see that as kind of a next generation better business model?
I mean, I think it's part of it. I think, if we have grassroots subscribers, and those grassroots subscribers are willing to help contribute to it, I think that's, we can do quality content. Volume problem?
Well, I mean, the music doesn't help.
Why are they playing it so loud?
Can you hear him? You only have the shotgun going.
Yeah.
We've got that other mic, but,
there's
best we can.
Is it okay? Maybe we should. Yeah, I know it's terrible. I
Best
can hear
we can
that.
do.
Yeah. Why don't we just do a wrap and then we'll kind of. I guess the other thing I want to do.
It's gone now. So.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So we'll have to do an edit there. That's pretty funny. So just tell our viewers what your podcast is, where
Sure.
they find it. And
You can find it at patreon.com/Sirota. That's patreon.com/Sirota. And you can become a $5 or $10 a month subscriber. And with that, you get exclusive content. You get the main podcast. You get a newsletter. And look, it's a way to. We use those resources for the journalism. It's not that high a threshold of asking people to chip in. And I think the basic, larger message beyond my podcast is we're all going to have to chip in a little bit. We're all going to have a little skin in the game. If you're willing to spend $100 or $150 on a cable package, and then you're wondering why you're not getting good journalism out of cable news, you should think about, well, maybe I shouldn't be spending that money on that. Maybe I should try to support and consume the media that I want, that does a better job at journalism. And I think creating that mindset and creating that culture that, in a sense, if all you're relying on is free content, you're going to get what you pay for. And it may not be all that great.
so let me just ask you. I mean, you're saying cut the cord, instead devote your dollars to independent media. You're investing in real investigation. That's your investment. So do you watch cable news?
I don't. I cut the cord. I don't want to watch that. I mean, I find the cable news to be toxic. I don't find it to be informative. I would rather spend my own resources on supporting and consuming media that actually gives me the information and the tools that I need to be an informed citizen.
I did the same thing. So there you've got it. You've got the message, folks. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
David.
Thank
It was
you.
fun.